Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Well, I hope you're having a wonderful day. If you live your life in the past, it's a day after yesterday. If you're more optimistic and you are yearning for the future, well, then it's the day before tomorrow, really. Now, the masters would say it's all right now. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day. If you have a question about Maitreya, the Masters of Wisdom, please feel free to post that question as a comment. In the most recent video would be best. You can also email me directly at searchforsigns@mail.com. And if you could refrain from asking me questions about what somebody else is saying, my opinion about them per se, or that kind of thing, I really appreciate it. Anywho, first question comes from Tao Zenchi. Can you please let me know if you think it's a fact that cataclysmic events are cyclical? Cataclysmic events are not cyclical, but at the beginning of each cycle, there's great turmoil, there's a lot of uncertainty, because what happens is everything in life is energy. And as our sun moves around the cosmos, it goes under the influence, or moves into alignment between one or other of these zodiacs. Over the last 2,000 years, we've been influenced by the energies of Pisces, which gave us the civilization that we know historically over the last 2,000 years. Now, we're moving more and more into the energies under the energies and the influence of the constellation of Aquarius. So those energies are different, and actually quite different than Pisces. They're not even closely related, really, in terms of qualities. But so everything that's been comfortable and familiar over the last 2,000 years is crumbling. And for instance, the structures that are built under the light of Pisces at this stage of the game. Now, the next time we're under the energies of Pisces, we'll be at a much higher level of the higher rung of the ladder. But for this point of the discussion, the structures that were built under the light of Pisces created the economic structures that we have, the political structures, the social structures, the healthcare structures, those kind of things. But the qualities of Pisces help to create a very strong, potent individuality. But if you look at the structures that were built under the light of that energy, those same structures are built off of selfishness, off of greed, because that's, if you have a very strong, potent individuality, well, you want as much for yourself as you possibly can get. So even our healthcare and our educational structures are built on selfishness, which should be really for the people, right? Where hospitals and medical professionals, in a lot of ways, they provide a service, but at the root of what they do, it's about making money. And so if you don't have, for instance, if you don't have health insurance, they might not take care of you. Or it's extremely expensive to get the health care that you need. I mean, it might be wonderful quality health care, but you have to pay through the nose just to get it. Higher learning, for instance, especially in the United States, it costs thousands and thousands of dollars to get a college education, because these colleges know that people, if they want a better job, and I'm putting that in quotation marks, they need a college education. So therefore, they have, the people demand it and they supply it, and the more people demand it and the less supply, the more the money goes up. I mean, it's just a first rule of capitalism, right? So the structures of the future that will eventually be put into place under the light of Aquarius will need to meet the needs of all the people. And that's where this whole information fits in, because humanity in and of itself can't build the structures. We need guidance. We need help on how to do that. And these masters are here to show us the next step forward, is really what it amounts to, so that these structures will support and fulfill the needs of all the people. Above all, the structures will, like the political structures, will be built to sustain peace. The economic structures will be built to sustain justice. and so forth. And then the education systems would be truer to who we are as souls and those kind of things. So that's where we're headed. So what we're seeing is the breakdown of the old structures. We're also seeing our world leaders trying to patch the old structures together because that's what's familiar to them too. And it's not working. And every time it might work for a little bit and then whew, bam, and then a little bit, bam. I mean, so looking what happened since the coronavirus hit, right, in March with the stock markets, right? Well, I mean, it took a nosedive and it went down extremely fast and went up extremely fast. And so that type of, nothing's really going to be able to sustain the markets of the world being up at the all-time highs the way that they've been. And so as it starts to go back down again, well, they'll put more money into it. And, they won't have enough money for the people because that will cause hyperinflation. The $300 billion they want to give to the people of the United States to help them out, that will cause hyperinflation. That will cause way too many problems. But yet they'll throw 4, 5, 10, 20 trillion if they need to get that market back up, and it will just go right back down again because it's under the light of Pisces and we're moving away from that. So the things that they could have done to solve the problems that are going on today, 100, 200, 300 years ago, don't work today. So that's really what it amounts to. Hopefully that answers your question, Tauzid. So the closest to cataclysmic events being cyclical, it really has to do with the ending of one age and the beginning of a new age. In terms of all the other things you mentioned in the previous comment, there's not going to be a nuclear holocaust. I mean, there's always the possibility of it until we turn away from war forever. And as a people, demand from our world leaders that, do we demand justice and we demand peace, Now, the people marching in the streets, one of their slogans is no justice, no peace. Well, how do you create justice? That's the key. See, Maitreya would say the only way to create justice is to share the world's resources. What these people are fighting for and what, the racial tensions that have been in the United States for so long, it's not a racial thing, it's an economic thing. And so if the masters would say that terrorism and violent protests and everything are the direct result of the disparities between the rich and the rich and the poor nations even. And so once humanity starts to see that as the root cause of those types of activities and change our ways, then those things such as terrorism will fall away. And to quote Donald Trump, will just miraculously one day go away, and that's really what it amounts to. But the slogan, with, no justice, no peace is true, but they're missing the first key ingredient. And that's what Maitreya is going to be teaching us is we have to share the world's resources. Without sharing, there could be no justice. Without justice, there could be no peace. Without peace, there could be no future. So hopefully that answers that question. All right. Now, I don't normally comment on the people who put up that Maitreya is the Antichrist, he's the false prophet, he's this, that, and the other. And I did want to bring this up because there was some banter going back and forth between people on some of these things. I used to just take the comments down, and my purpose for taking the comments down were there were enough people talking about Maitreya being the Antichrist on whatever YouTube channel or website or whatever they wanted, or blog or whatever they wanted to do. So if somebody truly thought that for themselves, they could go to there and get as much information about that as they could. Now, I don't agree with that information, but they could do that. And this channel is different. This channel is about my side of the story and how it relates to miracle signs and those kind of things. And I don't believe Maitreya is the Antichrist. In fact, I know for a fact he's not the Antichrist. But I read one of Benjamin Creme's master's articles, and it was entitled "The False Christs." And when I first read that title, I was thinking he was going to be talking about something else. But in the end, he talked about how there's a reason why people believe that they are the Christ, that they are Maitreya even, or the coming of the Imam Mahdi or whatever it is. and why people are drawn to those kind of people. Now, Maitreya is not in that category, but it's just, people think that they have connections with Maitreya even, or they have, which they really probably don't, or they think they're Maitreya themselves. In fact, one of the people who was asked to make known this information, along with Benjamin Creme, this woman who was in Tokyo, thinks that she's Maitreya. So, but yet the reason why I started leaving these messages up is because I'm kind of relating people's view of Maitreya being the Antichrist or Satan or whatever name they call him under the umbrella of the false Christ, because Benjamin Creme's master was saying that it's the reason why the more and more people think that they are Maitreya or think they're the Christ or those kind of things, or Jesus or whatever, come back. It's because of the fact that Maitreya is already here. And so I'm leaving comments like this up, and people can say whatever they want to say. I don't agree with it at all. If it gets too out of hand, I'll take it down. But, for the most part, everyone needs to kind of come up to the truth of this information in their own way. And eventually, it might not even be in this lifetime, but eventually we will all come to the realization and the truth that perhaps what we were thinking about Jesus is not accurate. And so we have to come up on that information and that truth within our own time frame. And I think that people who take the time to really put these comments up, they're scared, they're afraid. They do think that Maitreya is the Antichrist, but they also think that because Maitreya is the Antichrist, and this is their belief, they think that he is, that Jesus must be coming back from the clouds soon. And because they are calling for the Christ to come back in whatever vision they have, it is helping the Masters of Wisdom come back into the world in their own way. And Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom know, and they're realistic, but they know that not everybody is going to want for the world what Maitreya wants for the world right away. But eventually, all of humanity will get it. It's just going to be a matter of time. And people who call Maitreya the Antichrist and everything, first of all and foremost, he loves them just as much as he loves those who are working diligently day in and day out for the restoration of the planet and the salvation of the planet. And he also knows that in their own time they will come to the realization that we are all one, that we are all brothers, but we all have to get there ourselves. So hopefully that helps. So Herald, and then the other title was Jesus Christ is a Rock. That's why I'm leaving your comments up, because we all need to come up to this information ourselves. I don't think for 1 second that Maitreya is what you think he is. But in time, we'll all have to come and see it for ourselves. Now, next question is from Zen. Where is the ghostly photo of what appears to be Jesus floating in a white gown in your intro from? Is it a phenomenon someone caught on camera? Yes, it is. It was actually a picture that was taken quite some time ago by a fundamentalist Christian who was flying in a plane and took a photo of a cloud. And after she developed her photos, that image of Jesus in the clouds actually appeared in her photograph. And it's one of the many signs of the return of the Christ. All right. And then the next question is from Zen. What are your thoughts about the Shroud of Turin? It is very, very interesting that science still can't explain this. Also, do you know if Maitreya has any thoughts or words on this? Yeah, he does. That was actually... The Shroud of Turin is actually legit and authentic. It was the burial shroud of Jesus. And a couple things. One, if you look at the hand of Maitreya, it looks very similar to the Shroud of Turin. It looks almost three-dimensional, like a negative, like a photographic negative, but three-dimensional in its quality. Jesus was a disciple back in Palestine, and Jesus knew Maitreya and knew of Maitreya. And James, John, and Peter, the three closest disciples, knew very intimately the relationship that Jesus had with Maitreya telepathically. So knew that Maitreya, the Christ, was working through Jesus at that time. So there were times when Jesus was speaking directly to the people. There were other times that it was Maitreya speaking directly to the people. And whatever's written down that Jesus said, hundreds of years after he said it, a lot of it's coming from Maitreya himself. So you'll find that the similarities between Jesus that we read in the Bible and Maitreya are very similar, and the way that he speaks, because they're coming from the same person. But Jesus knew of that relationship. So when Jesus, but my point of to answer your question, Zen, is when Jesus died on the cross, he was buried in that shroud, put in the tomb, and then when 3 days later on Easter, or the first Easter, I guess, when Jesus didn't come back, and I know this is going to tick off a lot of fundamentalist Christians, but it was Maitreya actually that entered Jesus's body, and when he did that, the light of him coming back into the body is what was impermeated onto that cloth. So it was hidden away for centuries, and then it was rediscovered, obviously, at some point around the Middle Ages, and had been moved around and everything. But that is an authentic cloth of the image of Jesus. And so Jesus, according to Benjamin Creme, when he's out known for who he is, will actually say that and prove that that is his original burial cloth. So, and actually, one of the images of Jesus, which I have in my video, it's actually the first image I think at the beginning of the video, if I'm not mistaken. There's 3 pictures of Jesus, and those were computerized, generated pictures of Jesus based on the Shroud of Turin. And so I don't know if that's how he looks, but that's, in my mind, that's how I see Jesus. So that's why I have that image of him up there. All right, hopefully that helps. Now this one kind of is borderline of what I was telling people not to do. Have you heard of Robert van der Broek from Netherlands? Interesting guy, experiencing some very interesting phenomena since a young age. He takes pictures with his phone and has images of icons to seize people and what seems like aliens or angels appearing in the frames, some extremely clear. He recently got an image of Benjamin Creme with a cross of light over his face. It's beautiful. If you haven't already seen this, I suggest you do. He is also a lot of crop circle phenomenon around his home. He has a YouTube channel. I will link the specific video about Benjamin below. Yeah, I've heard about him. Anyway, hopefully that answers that question. So it's not really a question, it's more of a comment, but thanks, Zen. So I take that back, what I said about asking my opinion about somebody else. So as I first read that, I thought you were asking me my opinion about him, so sorry. Alrighty, and then what else? All right, this one comes from Simon. Thank you for answering my questions. My pleasure, as always, and for reading the article, all very illuminating. Say hi to Maitreya for me. Well, Maitreya actually is omniscient. He actually knows what everybody's thinking when they're thinking it. He knows who's been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake, I guess. I'm kidding. You can say hi to him yourself, and if you don't see him in person beforehand, you can see him when he's out known openly for who he is in the world. So you say hi to him for me too. Anyway, Simon, thank you very much for that, and thanks always for those of us who leave questions. I really appreciate it. It does help me kind of focus what I want to say in these videos, so thank you. Alrighty. Now this article that I want to read real quick, it's taken, of course, from Benjamin Creme's Master, and I've been neglecting to say this over the past few videos because I've been running out of time, but if you find Benjamin Creme's Master's articles as illuminating or nearly as illuminating and insightful and see the wisdom in it that I do recommend going to Amazon and buying one or both, maybe even the books, The Master Speaks Volume 1 or 2. Volume 1 has a lot more articles in it, but I find the wisdom in it just invaluable. So, and it would definitely be better, and I always want to say this, it's better to read it yourself and experience the words yourself than to hear it from me, and especially hear it from me, then I muck up at least 1 or 2 words, because as simple of a author as Benjamin Creme's Master is, there are a couple words in there that I have a hard time pronouncing. So a lot of times I'm going to go back and redo the whole video because I screwed up what he said. But anyway, this one's entitled The Awakening, and it was written and published in the Share International. It was written on February 9th of 2010, but it was published in Share International on March 2010. So hopefully that helps. And as like I said, it's entitled The Awakening. Now that Maitreya has stepped forward into the open arena of the world and has appeared several times in full view of the television cameras, we can take stock of what has been achieved so far, and to some extent interpret the reaction of those who have seen and heard him. Bear in mind that in these preliminary approaches to the public, Maitreya has been careful not to frighten away those he wishes to help by too great an emphasis on change, too drastic or radical a program for renewal. While critical of our present practices in financial matters, bringing pain and hardship to millions, he praised men for their many achievements and their readiness to aspire to the creation of a better world. The response so far could be classified as muted but thoughtful, echoing the quiet earnestness of Maitreya's thought. One must remember that Maitreya was presented as an ordinary man, one of us, and not as a messiah figure from on high. Thus reactions of men were natural and honest, a true reflection of their fears and hopes. Of course, reactions varied with the background of the viewer, but Maitreya is well pleased with the response thus far. From this point on, Maitreya will, quote, step it up, unquote. The need for urgent change, the necessity for peace based on justice and sharing. He will also focus attention on the plight of the planet Earth and the responsibility of men for its problems. Thus will the great Lord orchestrate a mounting crescendo of action for the re-establishment of our world and life. Interviews of this kind will continue to be given around the world, awakening men everywhere to their opportunity to set to rights their life, to create justice and peace by sharing, to see themselves as one, to end forever the competition and greed which for so long has held men back from their destined path to divinity. Thus will Maitreya coax men out of their long slumber and awaken their desire for change. Thus will grow a great informed world public opinion, the greatest force on earth. Against that mighty force, no reactionary platform can stand. Humanity itself, inspired and vitalized by Maitreya, will reinvent their future and through freedom and justice for all, establish the era of goodwill and manifested love. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.